Hi, Dr. Gerard Delorno, President, Garnet Health Doctors. It's an exciting day. I'm here in Goshen at our new Goshen site. It is 102 Close Avenue in the area of the new Goshen Plaza. It's an exciting time for the healthcare system. Garnet Health made a commitment to Goshen to return healthcare here. It's been almost 10 years since Arden Hill closed its doors, and we're bringing healthcare back to Goshen. We have this beautiful 16,000 square foot facility conveniently located off of 17, a few miles away from our main campus. But really, if COVID has taught us anything, it's that care really needs to be brought locally, and we will have primary care, urgent care, and medical specialties, including rheumatology, endocrinology, and then ultimately women's care and pediatrics here at our site. It's a great opportunity for us to be coming back to the community and really invest in this community. We're very excited to be here and look forward to seeing you. And remember, Garnet Health, exceptional is here.
Just imagine your most important documents, employee records, invoices, contracts, and more safely archived, but also right at your fingertips. DocuWare provides document management for teams who appreciate simplicity. Every document is digitized and organized automatically. And setting up workflow between colleagues is a snap and leads to instant and effortless communication. Say goodbye to manual data entry and frustrating tasks. State-of-the-art encryption and security keep your documents safe and compliant. Plus, a fast, clear interface enables users to effortlessly find, share, review, and process documents from your desktop, tablet, or smartphone. DocuWare is the smartest home for your documents.
Last year, Belfour did 114,000 different jobs around the world. We've been to floods, fires, tornado sites, earthquakes, where people have lost everything. It's our job to make sure that we can restore hope to these people. We've been lucky enough to restore people's photo albums. When we return it to a mother and a daughter, that's their glimmer of hope. That's the beginning of them rebuilding. It's not just putting a nail into a piece of wood. It's not just removing water after a flood. It is to give hope to these people. Yes, your homes can be rebuilt, and yes, your businesses will be rebuilt. But more importantly, your lives will be rebuilt. We do restore more than property.
It's our pictures.
And we are there for you. And we are committed on a personal level to get you back up and running in record time. There's nothing that we cannot fix. And we believe that. To me, that's Belfour. At Belfour, we're restoring more than property.
The occasion we provide flowers for are any occasion: birthday, funeral, wedding, corporate Christmas party. We provide customized bouquets where you can take any bouquet you have in mind. We provide classes for floral arrangement, for groups, for corporates and individuals. You can take advantage of our deal of the day that we offer you a bouquet for $50 with seasonal flowers.
Good morning. I'm Heather Bellmeyer, the Acting President and CEO of the Orange County Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to our sponsors, our corporate partners, and to you for joining us today to discuss securing your business. We're grateful to hear from this expert panel of professional securities in the industry. We'd like to note that all of today's panelists offer similar services as each other, but they've all agreed to talk about specific areas for today's purpose of discussion. Our first expert today is Gerald Poller. He is with Cyber Guardian Security Services. Here to tell us about the importance of cybersecurity is Gerald Poller.
Good morning, and thanks for that lovely introduction, Heather.
Thank you very much, Gerald.
Yeah, Cyber Guardian started in 2015 as a managed service provider and with a security emphasis, and we quickly evolved into what's called a managed security services provider. And when we get through with all the letters and all the gobbledygook, basically that means our focus is on cybersecurity. And really, the question becomes, is cybersecurity a game of whack-a-mole? And it often feels like that. There's so many dangerous things happening in the cyberspace environment today that it really does feel that way. If we can change the slide here. And, the question then becomes, what can we do about it? There's an awful lot of, there's more than one way to fix a problem. But as soon as one threat pops up, one threat is taken care of, another one pops up. So responding to security problems starts with a good understanding of the threat landscape. What's really going on here. We hear of dramatic stories all the time about huge cyber thefts, multi-million-dollar ransomware demands, and elaborate black hat hacking. Can we change the slide here again? And that dominates the headlines, but it's not the whole story. Protecting your organization from internal data loss is as important as warding off external threats. So where do the threats come from? Well, we surveyed our clients a couple of years ago. We do have a chart here. We can bring it up, yeah, to find out what was causing the data to be lost. Our results, almost 60% of data loss was a result of lax internal procedures. These results conform with wider studies. Accidents happen. You don't know when data is lost and when lost data will become important for compliance, for litigation, for operations, for customer service, or any of the other data-driven things that an organization does today. Change the slide, please. One large problem is how long it takes to find out that something went wrong. 6 months is above average. It can take another 3 months to fix a malicious attack. And internal data loss may not be fixable. Once data is gone this long, we're talking about 6 to 9 months. Well, once it's gone that long, it's gone. We can change the slide. The risks are enormous, and they're growing. The coronavirus pandemic has witnessed an exponential number of external advanced persistent threats. Those are the APT attacks we're talking about. This is partly the result of an organization pivoting to remote work without implementing adequate security protections. And this greatly increases vulnerabilities. Asking an employee to use their personal laptop without installing a proper firewall is like laying out a welcome mat for cyber criminals, and the losses can be enormous. Then the cost of a breach is frightening. I mean, we're looking here, average breach $3.86 million, and that's 2019. The 2020 numbers aren't in yet. Cleaning a hardware device like a laptop or a phone or a server, $216 per device. How many devices do you have in your organization? Right now, I have 2 laptops, an iMac, a phone, and a tablet, and I'm just one person. So when you count up all the computers, the phones, the servers, all the connected fax machines and printers, it adds up. In addition, you have liability to third parties and our suppliers for leaked information that can result in litigation and cash penalties. So you factor in the damage to your reputation, to lost business, it gets very pricey. The sad truth is most small businesses are out of business within 6 months of being breached. So if you have an organizational IT department, its first job is to keep the systems up and running efficiently. They're not security experts. Most can't keep up with security issues. We recently looked at a large educational institution here in the Valley. They had their IT staff chart online, and they had 48 people in their IT department, but the only person tasked with security was one junior technician. And that's not unusual. Most security operations just simply struggle to keep up. Now, even a major cybersecurity company like SolarWinds, which is as big as they come, they became a victim to state actors targeting them with an army of highly skilled engineers. You can see that Microsoft's estimated that there were 1,000 engineers involved in the SolarWinds attack, if you read about it. So we like to say that there are only three types of organizations: those that have been hacked, those that have been hacked and don't know about it, and those that are successfully defending their organizations against intrusion. So if that's a threat landscape that we've been looking at, what can we do about it? If a cybersecurity juggernaut like SolarWinds can be hacked, what chance does anyone else have? First of all, how many organizations are going to attract the attention of 1,000 state-backed expert hackers? The situation for most of us isn't that dire. However, there are, if you're in healthcare or finance, you may be under a significant threat. Steps can be taken to mitigate these risks. A good start is to understand the context in which the attacks occur and the factors that allow them to pierce the defenses. I don't know how many times I've read about people who were victims of ransomware and didn't fix the leak, and they were attacked by the same people again. So it's vital to admit that specialized knowledge is required to address the complex web of threats. For most organizations, do it yourself just doesn't work. It's totally inadequate. A defense designed by cybersecurity experts deploys appropriate measures for known and even some unknown threats. Internally, the best thing to do that you can do is just establish the best practices for your internal operations. My company is SOC 2 certified. We comply with the ISO, the International Standards Organization. These are security standards, and they are pretty formidable to implement. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time to get it right. So that's what we've done. We've created internal best practices, established controls, got buy-in from senior staff, which is the critical step. Security starts at the top. Our senior staff meets monthly to review our compliance throughout the company, and every year we get audited by an independent auditor. So since so much loss is data due to internal mistakes, you can change the slide here. You have to inform and motivate your employees and also provide them with actionable information. And that's really a good first step. There's a security first mentality is a good thing. Everyone needs to understand that the internet is a no trust zone that requires constant vigilance and adherence to best practices. Now, the motivation is a good thing, but it needs actionable advice. And you put up posters to give great reminders to people. Don't just scare them, tell people what to do. There are 4 steps that help reduce risk from human error, which is one of the largest causes. Like I said, 60%. You have to train your employees, so we can go to the next slide, and constantly reinforce their message to be on the lookout for suspicious activities. Conduct remote work exercises for key executives and business leaders. Frequently, I will get an email with a mistake in it, like a spelling error in a company name. That's something that's very suspicious. You should have people on the alert for that. Establish ground rules for the use of common apps and tools, especially social media. Recognize that nobody is immune from social engineering. Misinformation, rumor, and a sense of urgency can overcome even the most common of sense. Maintain good communication between remote workers if you're doing that. And stay informed. There's a lot of great information available from government sources, from business studies, from the trade press. The threat environment is constantly shifting, so paying attention to security trends is really vital. Opening the barn doors after the fire doesn't help the horses who were burned. Resources are plentiful. Sorting through them to find the most relevant to a particular situation can be daunting. Another thing you can do is to know your tools. To err is human, but if you really want to mess things up, you need a computer, and then a computer can fix the mess too. So become familiar with the cybersecurity tools in your toolkit. Most cybersecurity failures are caused by a computer hacking human vulnerabilities. Human brain evolved for one purpose, which is to keep us alive. It's vulnerable to messages that threaten our survival. Criminals are expert at exploiting these fears. For instance, if you got an email with the subject urgent, you have been in contact with a verified coronavirus patient. It'll track your attention. It'll get a fair number of opens, clicks, and downloads. Fear doesn't work on machines, and your tools will help prevent that. So become familiar with the tools at your disposal and employ them appropriate to your situation. You may not see the benefit today. You may not even see it in the next year, but you will feel it when something bad happens. And there are a lot of bad things happening all the time. One of the strategies that we've been able to employ effectively is a diversion strategy. It's called the honeypot, and I use it to ward off attacks. We give hackers something easy, but not too easy to find, and it's a ruse. When somebody attacks that spot, we're tracking every event, every log. We're tracking, logging everything that happens, every event there. That helps identify the source of the threat, and it helps quarantine whatever comes there. There is one case study that I read about. This is not something that we were involved with, but SpectraLogic's a Colorado data storage company, and they realized they were under attack. And the first thing they did was they ran to their server room in their data center, and they were pulling plugs left and right. That brought down their entire infrastructure and stopped their operation cold in its tracks. They were fortunate because they had backups of their data and were separated from the rest of their network and safe from the incident. It was possible to get back up and running without paying the ransom. It was possible, but it wasn't easy. A week of 24/7 rescue work by their IT team, a very valued assist from FBI specialists, and eventually they restored enough functionality to reopen for business. It took more than a week to fully restore their systems and heighten the network monitoring to make sure it didn't happen again. So the big lesson there is back up everything to a remote location. Now, one of the things that we offer is a brand newly developed product. We just introduced it early this year, called File Science. We like to say your peace of mind is our most important product. But we had a client with a similar experience to that Colorado company, and we developed this software as a service that backs up data to not one but two separate cloud locations. With File Science, a SpectraLogic event would not have held their business up for days. We would have had them back up and running within hours. Most people think their cloud data is backed up by Google and Microsoft or whoever you're using for your cloud apps, but the truth is it's not. Big companies protect themselves. They're not reading you. Read the small print. You might be surprised. So our File Science is a comprehensive, flexible, and effective backup solution that is surprisingly affordable. Backs up apps that no other solution can, and it restores it to any file format you may want. We're proud of this accomplishment. So, thank you for its paying attention. And as a special introductory offer to chamber members, we can give you the first month of File Science for free. Please contact us for details. I'm Gerald Paller. My email is gerald@cgcg.biz. Our CEO, Nick Martin, is nick@cgcg.biz. And there'll be time for questions later. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Gerald. It's such a pleasure to represent your business. And that was some really interesting information. We look forward to learning more about that, especially during the pandemic. There was a lot of cyber issues. So we'll be back with you a little bit later. Right now, we're getting ready to welcome Scott Perry with Atlas Security Services to talk to us about security guards. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Great to see everyone. I'm Scott Perry, and along with my business partner, Matt, we own and run Atlas Security Services. Matt's a retired trooper, and I'm a retired NYPD sergeant. We've been in business since 1992, and we currently have 60 clients and 200 staff. We're headquartered in Goshen, and we provide coverage throughout New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So what do? We provide unarmed and armed security guards and mobile patrols, period. We are a guard staffing company. Unless you're an existing client, we don't do trainings, investigations. We look to great guys like Brian Foley and Rick Hewitt, who specialize in that area, and you'll hear from shortly. We feel with as many clients as we have, in order to provide 24/7, 365-day-a-year service, we need to be dedicated to the staffing aspect. We've been through storms like Sandy. We've been through blizzards, the post 9/11 security frenzy. But COVID made it crystal clear we need to be on our game staffing wise. Overnight, some of our clients were closed, but still required security. Others were busier than ever, and still others had hours and procedures drastically changed, and we had to respond. We had to provide our existing security function, but also perform wellness function, wellness questioning, temperature screening, and we had to help enforce social distancing rules. One of the reasons clients chose to use us to help with these new challenges was to avoid potential conflicts with the wellness screening. They didn't want management screening their employees or employees screening other employees. And this was particularly true with the union shops where they felt there was a potential conflict. So we had to learn on the run, set up tents and heaters, rent screening trailers, purchase supplies and equipment, and we made it work. We're still providing this type of screening at numerous facilities. These include food processing, medical facilities, and manufacturing facilities. By assuming the screening responsibilities, we allowed our clients who were already stretched thin staffing-wise due to COVID to free up their resources. Many of the clients also wanted to divide their staff into an A and B team to avoid losing the entire staff due to exposure. We were able to take on some of the in-house duties such as reception, answering phones, and receiving deliveries to free them up. We had to do all this while maintaining our normal security staffing. And we also had challenges due to COVID. So it really proved that you can't be a jack of all trades in this business if you're going to be responsible for the safety of thousands of client employees and hundreds of millions of dollars of customer property. You need to be focused on the task. So COVID caused security to be used in new ways that we had never seen before, but we had always pushed our clients to see security as part of the team and not just a guard. Safety and security is our main function. However, we have guards who also act as shipping and receiving clerks, corporate greeters, medical receptionists. So the clients are not just paying for a guard for what might happen. They have an integrated member of the team who is well versed in their business. And also, ready in case of emergency, ready to handle a disgruntled ex-employee, control vehicle and pedestrian traffic, discourage theft, or to direct first responders during an incident. We all know we live in a world of multitasking, and I think in the security industry, we're a little ahead of that curve. So you may be in a business where you'd like to have security, but you don't have it in the budget. Perhaps there's a current function that you're paying for that a licensed and trained security officer could do while also enhancing your safety and security. Why not have the peace of mind knowing that you have a security professional at the most vulnerable point of your business? We have a list of clients locally that we're very proud of. The County of Orange is a client, Legoland, Mediacom, RSR, numerous schools, Pepsi, and that's just to name a few. In many of those facilities, we serve multiple roles. So I would hope that you start to see security as a multifaceted tool, part of the team, and not just a person in uniform whose only function is deterrence or emergency response. One of the greatest compliments we get is after someone leaves after 10 or 15 years at a client facility, actually we have employees from that client come up and they say, hey, we thought Bob worked for us. That's how tightly we're integrated with some of these companies. So finally, why choose Atlas? Let's talk a little bit about the state of the guard companies right now. For all intents and purposes, there's one huge mega company that has become the McDonald's of security. That leaves one big company with little focus on customer service and some smaller companies that may not be equipped to handle larger and critical assignments. Unlike some of the smaller companies, we have a 24/7 staff and supervision. We're headquartered in a terrific building in Goshen, and we have a fleet of vehicles. We own guard shacks and equipment, have fully stocked uniform rooms, and millions of dollars worth of insurance and bonding. So if you or one of your clients could utilize our services or just want to have a conversation, please reach out. We'd love to speak or meet with you. Security might not be as costly as you think, especially if you have us in a dual role where you gain multiple benefits. So if you'd like a full service, mid-sized security company that's still a responsive, locally owned provider, please reach out. Thank you and have a good morning.
Thank you so much, Scott. I'm really glad that you touched on the dual role. That is a very important point to bring up, and most people don't think about that, but so important for businesses to put that in the forefront, because especially now, more often than not, front desk personnel are really being confronted with issues that could benefit from having somebody in a security professional there to help with. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And we'll see you in a little while for some questions. Okay, so that was really good information. Now we're going to hear from Rick Hewitt with Blue Eagle Security about some private investigations.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Heather. Good morning.
Thanks for joining.
Just want to thank everyone for having me on. A little background about myself. I haven't been in business as long as Scott, and I appreciate Scott appreciating what I do as well. All the companies here are very good at what they do. Been in business 2 years. A little background, I did 23 years with the NYPD. Completed my career as a sergeant. During that tenure, I was a detective sergeant in charge of detectives in the narcotics division. So I guess that brings me to the section that I'm going to touch on today, private investigations. A lot of people don't realize the importance of investigations, whether it's for personal people, corporate, civil. There's just so many different aspects of investigations. It's not just surveillance, although it is part of what we do. There's infidelity cases, which is usually what we deal with mostly when it comes to the personal level. But on the corporate level, it's pretty interesting. There's many things we can do. We can do bug detections, we can do polygraphs, and a lot of that will help corporations when they're doing internal investigations. And what I mean by that, a lot of times internal investigations would consist of employees that maybe they think are stealing or skimming off the top, taking money. It usually comes down to money. Again, there's just so many things you could do. We have, in addition to that, there is skip tracing, which is huge. And a lot of that is I know we have a lot of lawyers in the chamber, and I just want to let you know we do offer skip tracing and witness locates. Definitely a big part of private investigations, where we're able to basically find who you're looking for, whether it's a decedent's family or a monetary case that someone deserves a check, and we need to find out where do they live, where's the last known location, who are they living with, where did they go, certain things like that. In addition to that, there's also tenant checks and nanny checks. Nanny checks is a big one as well, because we have a lot of people who use nannies these days, and you want to know who's watching your children. So we're able to do a full background check on that and let the client decide who they want in their home to watch their kids. Let's see, criminal history checks. We do a lot for landlords and property management. You want to know, who are we renting to? What's their pattern of paying their rent? Do they pay their rent? Do you want them in there? If there's a history of them moving every 6 months, more than likely you're not going to get paid. So that shows up in those checks as well. Again, that's just one part of company that we use. We do all kinds of any investigation you can imagine. Like I said, we got witness case, witness statements, trial preparation. There's accident fraud, insurance fraud, judgment recovery, process serving, foreclosures. So there's a whole gamut of investigations, and I just like to think, just so you know, it's not just myself who will be conducting the investigations. I do have a field of retired investigators from the NYPD who actually go out in the field and do the work as well. Just want to thank everybody again, and thank you, Heather, for having me.
Hey, thanks so much, Rick. We really appreciate that. That's great information. Most people don't think of doing background checks on people such as nannies, and they're entrusted with your most precious possessions. So that's really good information. Thanks. I really appreciate that. We're going to welcome Brian Foley next from Foley Security Solutions. Brian is going to talk to us about two things that I think are really important to when you're a business owner, when you're a parent, when you are a school teacher: situational awareness, and also security assessments. So Brian, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody. My name is Brian Foley. I'm the owner of Foley Security Solutions. We do provide a variety of training, as Heather said. Our core competency with training is for security officers, but we ventured out over the last few years into... Oh boy. All right, hold on. Oh. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Oh boy. All right. Sorry. Yeah, I did plug it back in. I know it was working before. Is it working now? No? All right. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Good morning. How are you all? Well, first of all, let me apologize for my background and whatnot. I was quarantined yesterday for an exposure early in the week, but since I'm fully vaccinated, I'm told it's only in order to verify the vaccination. So I should, unlike many, I'll be released fairly quickly. If you didn't know, the state police and the Orange County Sheriff's Office during this whole pandemic, we were part of the Pause Task Force. And, you know, despite things you might have seen from political leadership around the state, our job was really informational, not necessarily hard enforcement. And we took hundreds of complaints, and we may have visited one or more of your businesses just to advise you of requirements under the Department of Health regulations. You know, I'm happy to say we didn't take any direct enforcement actions except on those that refused to quarantine when ordered to do so by the Department of Health. So for securing your businesses, one of the things that we do in law enforcement is intensive backgrounds of any particular candidate. So depending on how much you're planning on paying someone, obviously if you're paying more in salary and benefits, it might very well be worth your investment to do a background investigation. Secondly, I would say you need an assessment to harden your targets, and you can seek professional advice for that. And here at the Orange County Sheriff's Office, we also provide that benefit to small businesses that members of our special operations group will come out and look at your business, because often physical changes to your business is a lot cheaper than going different methods. So having a quick assessment of your physical plant or your offices can lead to prevention later. And that is one of the basic rules of preventing violence, is to target your businesses, prepare them correctly, and harden them so that people can have a much lower chance of success if you've installed the right options into your business. At the sheriff's office, we also, if you didn't know, we do a lot of civil process. That's one of the functions of the sheriff's offices around the state. And we're always open for business 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, to execute papers. And the last we have, if you're so inclined to arm yourself and you're going to seek a pistol permit, the sheriff's office offers a whole line of civilian handgun training courses. They are small groups, they are low cost, and it begins with a handgun safety course, which is required for your gun permit, and then goes on to 6 other courses that, like I said, are very, very low cost in tuition and provide unparalleled information from security point of view and self-protection point of view. We recommend that especially for women who are far more vulnerable than men for personal violence. So in wrapping up my presentation, the Orange County Sheriff's Office has existed for, since the United States has existed. And we will continue to offer the services in Orange County. If you didn't know, we're one of the most accredited sheriff's offices in the nation. I know as business people, you understand what accreditation is. There's more than 3,000 sheriff's offices in the United States. Only 2% hold the 3 national accreditations that we do. And we're very, very proud of that. And it takes, as you know, if you're accredited, it takes a lot of work. And it's very difficult to maintain those accreditations over a long period of time. We've been accredited for about 15 years, and so been reaccredited many times. So I'm looking forward to any questions you might have, and I'll hand it back to our host.
Thanks so much, Ken, and we're glad that you're feeling good. We'll see you in a little while, and we thank everybody for letting us know about our little sound glitch. We worked through it. We hope everything's going well now. We look forward to welcoming back Brian. So, Brian, take the floor.
Can everybody hear me okay now? Can you hear me?
Still not hearing you well. Why don't you just talk really loud?
Can you hear me now?
No, still not well. So let's go ahead and go to our panel of experts. Everett's going to bring everybody in. All right. So now we're going to go to our question and answer time. And hopefully, Brian, we can get you talking a little bit louder or fixing your issue. My first question is to Gerald. So Gerald, what's the first thing that you would recommend doing to protect your IT infrastructure and data?
I think the first thing you really should be doing is an audit to find out what's going on, what your vulnerabilities are, what the risks are involved. You have to come up with a strategy for protecting yourself. So calling somebody in, and we do audits for free. It's a discovery process. And before we suggest a solution, we really want to know what's going on in your IT infrastructure, in your business processes, who you're connected with, and what you're doing currently to protect yourself. You buy a Windows computer, it has some sort of defenses in it, but obviously it's not a complete defense system. And we want to know what you're doing internally. And before we work with anybody, we come up with an action plan. So that's cybersecurity audit is really the best first step.
Okay, thanks. Ken, does the Sheriff's Office have any services to businesses concerned about their security?
Well, like I said in my presentation, we do offer a free assessment of your business because part of hardening your business is the installation of security access devices or cameras, things of that nature that can assist you. And so we'll give you that assessment for free. We don't provide the installation or any of those devices. You'd have to go to the other professionals that are in that business. But as an Orange County business, we do the assessment for free.
Okay, thank you. And how would somebody reach out to you for that?
You can either call me at 291-7693. That's my office, or or you can email me at kjones@orangecountygov.com.
Okay. Brian, can we get a test 1, 2, 3?
Can you hear me? I know I don't have the headset, but it's, can you hear me all right?
I mean, I can hear you faintly, so I'm going to ask your question and hopefully it'll come through. What does a security threat assessment consist of?
That assessment essentially is, we've worked with several school districts. What we're looking for is any vulnerabilities. So we would physically go through, one of the core things we're going to focus on is your access control. First walk into the building, what is your protocol? How am I getting into the building? Walk through, the assessment typically, depending on the size of the building, can take anywhere from 1 to 3 days, walking through, looking for things that are high risk. Also, what we really focus on as well when we do the assessment, we really lean heavily on the institution itself, ask questions and find out what level of training you have. So that's part of what we do.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Unfortunately, we were really having some technical difficulties with Brian, so I think we'll wind up having Brian host a master class for us on protecting your business through situational awareness and security assessments. Let's move on to Scott. What is the biggest challenge to owning a security guard company?
I think the biggest challenge is that we've been open 24/7 for 29 years. That means we've never been closed for a minute. So it is stressful. You get used to it, but in the back of your mind, you're responsible 24/7 for the client's employees and property. So you're never fully relaxed and you get gray hair. But I would say that's definitely a challenge that's probably unique to this business and maybe a few others.
Okay. All right. For those that are watching, if you do have any questions, these questions were submitted prior, but if you have any questions, you want to put them in the chat, I can see them. So Rick, tell us about executive security and how that differs from being a security guard.
Well, there's a big difference. One aspect of my team, I'm glad you asked. One thing we do is I provide an executive protection team. What that means is basically securing high earners, I'll put it that way, dignitaries, VIPs, as opposed to security on the local level, where it's very necessary as well. It's just a different level. So, for example, my guys, obviously, they're all retired NYPD as well as federal agents and Secret Service agents that were all dignitary trained, including myself. I've partnered up with a company out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, that's called Exo Jets, private jet company, as well as Madison Avenue Armored Vehicles in New York City. So that allows us to travel with our clients. Principals is what we call them in the executive world. But so there's just a big difference. It's a lot of traveling, a lot of traveling, just a lot of being ready to go at any minute. You have to be not just an expert in the security world, but you have to know the medical field. You have to know airport and airline security measures. There's just a lot more that goes into it. We may have a client who will take a armored vehicle right onto the runway. We'll meet and greet up on a plane, flying out to California, staying with them a few days. Same thing coming back, but in the interim, you're keeping that person safe as well as their staff. So there is a big difference.
Awesome. Thanks for explaining the difference. So in the military, they teach you to adapt and overcome. Looks like we did with Brian. Let's go back to his question. Brian, can you please tell us, what does a threat security assessment consist of?
Okay, thank you for having me back. I apologize for that. So a threat assessment, we've worked with several different large school districts, the Newburgh School District, Poughkeepsie School District. We do different levels of assessments, but a threat assessment in particular is essentially, before you're going to hire any security, you really need to understand what's wrong first. And the assessment does that. So we physically going out to the site, walking the floor, observing. Like when I worked with Newburgh, I spent a full day just observing how they handle people coming in and out, the exit times. Right now, especially during COVID, as things are reopening, it's so important to understand that we're so focused on, for businesses, how can I reopen and start, working again, which is great, but we're forgetting about the security aspect of that. So A threat assessment right now is a great thing for your business to have, just to understand perhaps where we need improvement. And our core focus is always going to be what's the most important thing that you work on first. You can't fix everything at once, but I really am going to put a big emphasis on their access control, how people are getting in and out of the building.
Okay. And to be fair, we're going to go to you after we're done with our panel questions, so you can have your floor to discuss the topics that you're here for. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Scott, what are the issues that smaller companies face in the industry?
When we began in 1992, they had just begun to license security guards. Now there's many more rules and regulations. You have to track sick time, family medical leave, sales tax collection. You have to budget for laying out 4 to 6 weeks worth of payroll. It's a business that's very involved. I don't think a lot of people realize when they first get into it how much it entails, and it's like most businesses, it's getting more complicated, and attention to detail and experience is even more important these days.
I'm sure Rick and Brian can agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As I said
agreed.
in my opening, I'm very grateful to Scott, Rick, and Brian for joining us today. They actually operate very similar businesses, but agreed to talk on specific topics today. So, Ken, what do you see as the biggest threat to the security of businesses in Orange County?
Well, the biggest security breach I would think that's possible is in your software. We get a lot of complaints of that. And then secondly, I would say unauthorized access, especially if you have a large business. Employee theft is something that is recognizable as one of your greatest threats. And then after that, it would be just the criminal activity, whether it's penetrating your business, stealing your products, things of that nature. And then, fortunately, here in Orange County, last, it would be some sort of violent event at your business. Although they've occurred in Orange County, they're rare, but you should nonetheless prepare for them because preparation is 90% of the cure.
Okay, thanks so much. Let's go to Gerald. Gerald, what security precautions need to be put in place for home workers?
Well, actually, before I address that, I just want to say that it's great to hear everybody talking about the relationships they build with their with the people they serve, whether they're clients or on the government side, whether it's your constituents. Building a relationship is really important because what your security company really takes a deep dive into your organization, and it's good to have good long-lasting relationships. As far as security precautions to put in place for home workers, when the pandemic was declared, I just picked up my laptop from my office because we have a secure network, and all of the software and all of the precautions on my laptop came home with me. And then but most people don't have that. Most people don't work for a cybersecurity company. So just making sure that whatever you set up for your home workers has the same level of security that you have established for your office workers. Okay,
thanks. Brian, what's the difference between active shooter and situational awareness training?
So the active shooter, I mean, the likelihood of an active shooter, I know it comes up in the news, and when it happens, it's horrific, but active shooter is a smaller percentage. The SAFE class that we teach is called Situational Awareness for Employees, and it really focuses on recognizing behaviors before they happen. So it really puts the emphasis on recognizing key indicators, the things in terms of body language that people might miss, an indicator in terms of potentially violent people, situations that could be averted. And the SAFE course teaches us how our brain works under a time of stress. That we understand that when we're not under stress, we can recall about 7 to 8 things. But when we're under a time of stress, and if we don't have proper training, we typically can only recall about 3 things at a time. So the SAFE course is about 1 to 2 hours. Of course, ideally, I'd like to teach in person, but because of everything that's happened, we have worked with several school districts in teaching this course and doing it online as well. So it it points out things that perhaps somebody didn't think of before, key indicators. And the biggest thing I'll just say with body language, it focuses on changes in behavior, not so much the typical ones that everybody knows. So.
Okay. Rick, apparently somebody recognizes you from your role as Officer Rick working with businesses. Would you like to explain what that role is?
I'm not sure who that is, but I guess I will explain. I am still, although I consider myself retired, I am still working and helping out part-time with the City of Middletown PD. And I am doing the downtown business district. So I am the business district coordinator, you would say, and helping out with the businesses as a somewhat of a liaison between them and the police department.
Okay. And what is that role, being a liaison?
So I would attend, unfortunately, because of COVID, we don't have as many meetings anymore, as many events and things like that we could get together and basically just talk to the business owners, see what their needs are downtown, what security needs, what measures they may need or help from the PD. So I'd be that kind of liaison for them straight to the hierarchy of Middletown PD and just get the ball rolling for everybody.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Gerald, how can we tell if we've been hacked?
Can't. You have to have an expert look. It's not a do-it-yourself thing. You have to look at your event logs. First of all, when you've been hacked, if something bad happens, you know you've been hacked. You want to find it before something bad happens. So you look at your event logs and really do a deep analysis of what's been going on. There are software products that can be used, which will tell you exactly where the vulnerabilities are. They're looking for anomalies. They're looking for something that is not right, something that should not be happening, and they're often very, very small. In the SolarWinds breach, it was one line of code. And they got into 18,000 organizations, including the Department of Homeland Security. There was a supplier side breach, and it just went everywhere. So what you're really looking for are very small bits of information that don't show up to casual observation. And it takes specialized software and specialized people to find.
Wow, very interesting. Okay, Scott, what advantage does a mid-sized company have over the big companies?
Oh, great. Good question. Yeah, we're one of the few remaining mid-sized companies. The one big company has bought most of us, but I'd say the big companies, they're like turning a battleship. They're slow to respond to customer needs and requests. They're also only as good as the local reps, and those guys change frequently. And I don't say this lightly, most of all, the mega companies, what you would consider substantial work, and we all consider our needs significant, they see as insignificant. Unless you're Giant Stadium or JFK Airport, they give minimal customer service. I've taken over accounts that were $500,000 a year, which we all consider significant. The mega company didn't even show up to fight to keep the business. They're on a different level, and they don't have time for most of the businesses in Orange County, unfortunately, and the Hudson Valley.
Okay, thanks so much. Last question to Brian. Brian, tell us about the importance of background checks for your staff. Specifically, what is the difference between a true background check and just running, say, a check on like sexual predator status?
Yeah, great question. So with the background checks, typically people think of a background check in terms of arrest records. Okay, the person's been cleared, but a true background check is going to unveil in terms of work history, education, and verifications. There is a lot, if you look online and look for background checks, there's a lot of different services, but if you work locally with a smaller company like Rick or myself or somebody, you're going to get a better background check. We have access to software that people don't have access to. So employers, it's difficult because when you're employing people, your first focus is to get the positions filled. But oftentimes one bad employee can make a difference in your company. You're only as good as your employees are. So to take the time and slow down and put the investment into a proper background check is so important.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask Everett from AC Productions to allow Brian a couple minutes to present now. And I thank our panelists for joining us, and I'll be back when Brian's done.
All right, thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So we offer Foley Security Solutions. We do offer training and assessments. Our core training that we do for businesses is our SAFE course, which is the situational awareness for everybody or for employees, which puts a real focus on recognizing violence before it actually happens. We also teach another course that I think would be extremely valuable to every business, which is MOAB, which stands for Management of Aggressive Behavior. It's a verbal de-escalation course that I became a certified instructor years ago when I actually took the course myself. So it's so important because in any business and any day, confrontations can arise and it could be internally. And having this particular training and skill set, it's a 2 to 3 hour course. We come in, we can do it online or at your premise as well for the management of aggressive behavior training. Our security assessments, which I got to start speaking about, for any business, before you decide what your security needs are, it's important to understand what you actually need. So a thorough security assessment, threat assessment is vital. Depending on the size of your business, we do offer free consultations to any business from the chamber to come out on site and do an analysis of what's needed. So as your businesses are reopening, which is great, but you need to understand the importance of preparing for things to return to normal. So the assessment itself, we come out on site, do the analysis. You're going to get a detailed report with our software system, which is not only going to point out what your vulnerabilities are, but we're going to go over together and work with you to remedy any of the situations that we feel are the highest risk to your organization. It could be staffing, it could be your access control protocol, or things of that nature. So again, thank you for having me on today and for the couple extra minutes to get this right with the audio. So thank you, Heather.